Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up, I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians or choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes. This day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
If I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Well, hello everyone. I'm looking on Facebook. It's weird, like the title keeps coming through wrong on Facebook. I can't help what Restream does, but what we're actually talking about today, I don't know what Facebook says. I know YouTube is correct. We are having an interview today with the next chair of the Libertarian Party, Angela McArdle. From my lips to God's ears. Let me do the quick preliminaries. Hello, Julian, and of course, these shows are always participatory, so please do come into chat and say something, and don't be shy. But let me do the preliminaries here first. My Patreon is below. I know you're getting tired of hearing it, but there's a special treat. I said earlier, for those of you who missed it, I'm the author of 2 essays. I am like so psyched about this, going down in party history, I guess. I'm the author of 2 essays in a book that's coming out October 20th, which is the 50th anniversary of John Hosper's seminal work, Libertarianism, A New Political Philosophy for Tomorrow. And one of the essays is on all libertarians' favorite bloodbath subject of abortion. So I am going to release that essay to patrons only ahead of time. And of course, encourage you guys to get the book. But if you want a sneak peek on what is sure to lather people up, because all you got to do is say the word abortion, throw 10 libertarians in a room, and I think you'll be lucky if one survives. They'll be littered with bodies. So yes, please become a patron if you are interested in that. And also, we are having some we're starting to get activity on the private Discord server, which again, I'm sharing much more personal things there that I don't put out on social media because it gets weaponized by assholes, as assholes want to do. Last thing before we bring on Angela is I've got new merch. I've got the Say Decorum One More Time t-shirt. And that one is, I've ordered it, okay? I'm buying my own merch. Is that like a drug dealer, like tasting their own wares? Well, I am getting my own merch. It's perfect wear for the Reno reset, which I know we were all looking forward to. And I'm the purveyor of the obnoxious t-shirts. Because the first one is Mudacorum. You can get that, or you can get the Nick Sarwark face with Noda on it, which is also one of my favorites. And Angela's coming, Christopher. Hold your horses. Cool your jets. She'll be on in just 1 second. Let me hawk my wares. Let me be the hopeless grifter that the LNC says I am. And also grab the pine, get the quills, and lastly, what was the one I just said? Oh, Say Decorum One More Time. I dare ya. Okay. What I'm going to do, let me hide this. I'm going to bring Angela on. And, well, actually, okay, it's going to look weird for a minute because I have these frames and I haven't figured out yet how to smoothly transition. So I'm going to go to the frames where it's going to be like me all weird in it. And then I'm bringing Angela on and then we will get started. I know, Assassin Panda, I don't know why that title is screwed up on Facebook. I don't know why. It shouldn't be. I have no idea. It's right on, isn't it right on YouTube, or is it wrong on YouTube? Tell me it's not wrong on YouTube. Okay, well, whatever. I will fix everything in post. Okay. So here we go. There's me. Ah, I did it right. Holy crap. I did it smoothly. Okay. There is Facebook access, Dave, but it's wrong on YouTube? How the hell did that happen? I don't know why. I'll fix it in post. And then we'll re-advertise it. I'm so sorry. I mess things up. That's what happens. Okay. Angela, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I am sorry that I'm a little bit pixelated looking and delayed.
Okay. And people are asking me, saying I should start and restop. Hold on 1 second. Let me check out my YouTube here. So that people... You know what? No, I'm not doing that. There's already 15 people here. We'll fix it in post. People will figure it out. And they'll see the video, and if not, you know, whatever. I'm not fucking with it. You know, you can, oh, yeah, you are very, I look so sharp.
I don't know what's going on, man.
Well, hello, everyone. Sorry for the wrong titles. Everyone says they can hear you, though. And nice lipstick, man. I like that shade of red. That's like a Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez red.
Oh, thank you.
And
I'm just messing with my webcam to see if I can look a little bit more like a person.
And you're the same color as the wall again.
Brought to you by ITT Technical Institute, circa 1998. Thank you, ITT. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, man. I look fine in the little, the little video that shows me what I'm supposed to look like.
Yeah, on my little screen over here, you look good too. It's all right, because the audio, I guess, is what's important in it. And apparently, like, I got something. It's not me. I put the titles right. Restream sometimes gets its wires crossed, but we will we'll fix it in post again so we can promote it. But so what we've got queued up is some of Matt Erickson, who yeah, he's an interesting little fella. And but before we got into him, I figured we'd, like you had suggested, maybe in 1 second we'll discuss like what kind of like thing he is. It's like a new thing. But before then, I wanted to talk about your chair run a bit before we got into him, because I have a feeling I'm going to get all lathered up about this guy. So let us know what you're doing, how people can help, where you're going to be, like your itinerary coming up, and like what you plan to be doing at conventions to make sure that you're our next chair.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just got back from Montana a couple days ago. They were absolutely delightful. I was really happy to see them. And the next stop that I'm going to be making on the campaign trail is the Take Human Action Bash, the tour. Apparently, this is it's going to be a tour, and it's going to be the first series, and that's going to be October 2nd, I believe, in Fairfax, Virginia. So I'm really excited to be at that. Maj Touré will be speaking, Lou Perez, a handful of other people. There's going to be some lectures on economics, and then music and fun stuff in the evening. So I'm excited to meet with people in Virginia.
Wow, I didn't even know about
really,
that.
It's been
get there.
Yeah, they've been pushing it on social media for a little while. There's an Eventbrite, but you'll definitely want to check in with the caucus crew on that, because that is a Mises Caucus event. And after that, I will be in Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, for the Freer Future Fest. I believe that used to be called LibertyCon, and it's being rebranded. So I'll be there working a Mises Caucus booth at that event and getting to meet the people of Tennessee. If I can make it back out for their state convention, obviously I would love to do that. And what else there's so many things. I'll be in Florida.
I know in January, you're going to Georgia.
Yes, I will be in Georgia for the Georgia State Convention in January. I will probably be in Connecticut as well. I'm trying to make November no travel November. We'll see if I can stick to that. Probably not. And what about this weekend? I'll be at the California Libertarian Party State Executive Committee meeting. That's in San Diego at the Courtyard Marriott, and we are having a small fundraiser for the party afterwards. And we're doing a screening of our documentary, The Unseen. So that's really exciting.
What's
the Mises Caucus is actually hosting a silent auction.
What's this documentary?
That is the documentary that we did. Oh, the California Mises Caucus did a documentary about the lockdowns and the damage that they wreaked on small businesses. It's really fantastic. We are doing screenings across the country. I don't know. We've been doing a lot of screenings. I'm pretty sure the Colorado State Party is planning on doing one soon, so that's fantastic. So hopefully you'll get a chance to see it.
Is there any little trailers?
I will be
on
auctioning off a Gavin Newsom pinata. Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I'll send those to you. I would drop them in the chat right now, but I'm afraid if I do anything on the internet, I don't know, maybe I'll be even more pixelated. What was that guy, Max?
Max Headroom.
You know who I mean? The guy from the 90s. Yeah,
Max Headroom.
I feel like I look like Max Headroom right now.
Well, I'll grab those for
you. So
yeah,
I would love got a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And
yeah,
Tom Woods?
Got a lot of stuff on the calendar.
All right,
yes,
awesome.
I will be at Tom Woods 2000 episode.
And
so that's kind of what I've got going on for October.
And how can people support you besides going to the conventions? Maybe throw you some coin?
Sure. Yeah, so you can support me on Patreon. It's patreon.com/Angela McArdle. So my commitment to the National Party is that if I get $2,000 a month on Patreon, I'll chair the party full time. And, full disclosure, I've kind of already done that. I am sort of working all of this full time, not just touring. Sure, it's fun to travel, but there's a lot of work that goes into this. Reading budget proposals, following all of the committee reports, looking at strategy, trying to identify the holes, trying to fix as many things, hitting the ground running, talking with other people who are running and trying to develop good relationships. Like there's a lot of work. So if you want to support that, if you think that the party needs to be professionalized in addition to having, radical principled messaging, please help me out by throwing a little bit towards Patreon, and I will be making an update to that soon. I try to do as many updates to that as possible, but it comes out to about once every 2 weeks. I don't make a lot of little posts talking about what I'm up to. There's plenty of that on social media, but I try to drop speech transcripts and actual resources. So I've got some good stuff to share.
And people are asking me to turn my volume up, but it's peaking on my thing here. So do you hear me fine, Angela?
I hear you just fine.
Okay, I think could be our listeners. Just an FYI, anyone today, if you throw anything into Super Chat, I will split it 50-50 with Angela. I'll throw it into her Patreon if anyone wishes to. I'm a hopeless grifter, as you know, so now I'm using Angela for my grifting. So if anyone does throw any Super Chats, I will split that with Angela. I can send you guys a receipt if you want to see that. I'll throw it into her Patreon. And by the way, speaking of that, I don't know if a lot of people picked this up, but the fact is them going after me for having a Patreon, I do think is a sly way of setting up a policy so that you can't be voluntarily funded to be a full-time chair, where they're trying to make it that only self-sufficient lawyers and other, only, certain kinds of affluent people can serve on the LNC. And this is something that people really need to look out for. And if the LNC passes a policy trying to forbid, monetizing activism, we've got to appeal that. We have to appeal it to the Judicial Committee. Absolutely have to, because that will affect you. And I saw this coming a mile away, that the attacks on my monetization from some people are coming from a good place. Like Ken Mullman had a little bit of a problem with it. I don't doubt he's coming from good faith. But like Laura Epke and them coming at it, I don't believe that's good faith. I just don't. And they can say I'm slandering them. It's my opinion. Whatever. Okay?
Yeah, I try to be very careful about what I put up so that, I will dodge most of those bullets, but I hear you, and it's definitely on my radar. We'll see if everyone gets sort of, fatigued from all the fighting by the end of the year. That's also my hope, is that they sort of run out of steam. Unfortunately, that was directed at you, but I'm really hoping
it might be directed at Joshua next. I hope not. I hope they're tired.
I hope not.
And
I remain fatally optimistic.
Well, my appeal is on the 17th. I think I have good grounds for the appeal, but the JC does not like overturning the LNC. But I actually think they have the smart path forward, in my opinion, for the JC is for them to reverse and remand and say, give her a trial. And that's kind of the safe solution. They're really not saying anything other than give her a trial. And we'll see if they then give me a trial. I'll be fine with that, but you're starting to get closer and closer to convention. And I don't think they'll be willing to. And I think that's the only solution in which everyone can save face. Because it's in such a standoff right now that you can't make anybody lose face, or this drama will last for years. So the JC is in a very precarious situation. If I were them, I would reverse and remand. Therefore, I can save faith, and the LNC could go, well, we tried. And everyone can walk away, because we tried to de-escalate at the meeting and they weren't interested. So we shall see. So let's talk about, what is this Matt? What is he? What's your thoughts on the movement that Mr. King Pill Matt Erickson represents? And give an intro to this debate we're going to play clips of.
So I think that Matt falls under the umbrella of what is now called post-libertarianism. And everyone is going to have a different definition of it, because that is what we like to do as libertarians. I'm a this, I'm a that. Oh, you didn't correctly label me and identify me. I hate labels. Well, you can all just, sit with your level of discomfort for just a moment, because we're going to label you just like you label us. It's okay. And, post-libertarians seem to be people who come from the liberty movement. Some of them the Libertarian Party, some just the movement at large. And they think that libertarianism, as you and I know it, and as the average libertarian understands it, has failed. And we need to move on to a better system in order to secure our liberties. And for a lot of people, that means the GOP, but, using the GOP power for good. A lot of this is based around political power or financial power or influence. Some people think that means monarchy. And I think that there's a little bit of a mix of agorism in there too, which is pretty weird when you think about agorism blended with statism. But, there's a lot of different people who are sort of falling under this umbrella. Or actually, is that true? Are there a lot of people? maybe that's not correct.
I
There
don't
are some
think
people.
there is.
I don't think it's
there's
nearly-
10 of them.
It's not a lot. Yeah.
But they're
Yeah,
getting
I
the
think
little
that's
niche
probably
following.
About right.
You know,
It's very niche.
yeah. And so I was watching a stream from, I forgot the title of it. He does long stream. I thought I did long streams. He does these long streams, and the title was something like, "Are you really accomplishing anything by spreading liberty?" Something like that. And I watched an hour and a half of a 2.5 hour stream, and they still hadn't talked about the title. They were just talking about somebody making fun of his co-host's little like girl tank top he was wearing. Because I guess I don't know, whatever, somebody called him like a degenerate homosexual or something. And they were just laughing their ass off at it. And it was funny. It was super, super funny. Until he started ragging on the Mises Caucus. Like, they've got a hard-on for the Mises Caucus. At least that sidekick, Mr. Man Bun, does.
Well, I mean, it's typical, and I don't fault them for it. You know, we've become successful, and they don't like that. And, you know, it's like a classic punching up thing, which is why I don't pay a lot of attention to them on social media. I don't generally give them attention because I think they need it. They need us in order to be relevant.
I do videos on them, but that's about it because, you know, I'll monetize it. Speaking of monetization, any super chats will be split with Angela. So grift often. Okay, sorry.
It's okay. I mean, I want to take this from an approach like my debate with Matt Erickson. I was pretty chill and pretty cordial, and we were both like pretty polite to each other. Because I think ultimately, like, this is just sort of a flash in the pan thing, and some of them are going to come back around to the party after the Mises Caucus takes over and after we've exhibited some success. And I want to be a little bit empathetic because I feel, as a Californian, I feel their pain at the frustration that we have not ushered in libertarian utopia. I get it. I'm dealing with local level vaccine passports. It's totalitarian madness over here. The elites like running wild and going to galas and parties and flaunting the fact that they don't have to wear masks, where 5-year-olds in kindergarten have to wear masks. Like, it's a nightmare. But I just disagree with the fact that with their idea that we should abandon libertarianism in order to achieve freedom. I fundamentally disagree with it. But I feel their pain.
Yeah, it's just, you know, I wouldn't have a problem with them. Like, I don't have a problem like the agorists that aren't into the voting thing because they tend to just leave me alone. But these guys are picking fights to make a name. I see it as kind of a little bit of cred chasing, you know?
Yeah.
So
it's right-leaning Fakertarians. It's people coming after me sometimes on social media and tagging me in things that I have nothing to do with, or that, you know, are taken out of context and begging for attention. That's
and Christopher,
really
we're gonna play some.
What I see.
Christopher asked, "Where's this debate?" We're gonna play some clips from it. And yeah, you were super chill. You're way nicer than I am. You're so nice. Like, I could get a bit more barbed, but that's okay because you know, compliments each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, you are way more patient and nice than like I am. But you know, Daniel did want to say man buns matter, and they do. All buns matter, Daniel. All buns matter. Man buns too. And I actually like man buns, so it's funny that I was like joshing with that guy because I like long hair on men. I like man buns, but he was just being a tool, so like I just started, you know, ripping on him a bit, but I actually like man buns. So we're going to play some clips because everyone's getting a bit antsy about it. So what I'd like to do is, these were just clips that interested me, and I did them when we were first going to do an interview, which was right before the LNC politically assassinated me, and then I was not into talking for a while. So I don't even remember what clips I pulled out. I hope they're still interesting. I bet they will be. So they're little short ones. I've got quite a few, so what I'll do, play them, and then we'll talk about it and interact with comments, of course, if, you know, there's ones in there that are interesting. So, okay, let's go to the first clip here.
For those of you who think that things look hopeless, that we're in the blackest period of American history and that our freedoms are all but lost, I'll counter you with this. I believe we are witnessing the state fight its very hardest because it is on the verge of crumbling.
Now, I love that quote from you. Now, again, these are, I like doing short little snippets and then expanding upon them that you can't necessarily do in the middle of the debate. And I actually think that's a powerful point, where people see the state like doing such terrible things, but I think the state will often fight the most when it's at its most vulnerable. It's almost like when you see a person who starts lashing out, you realize, the dog that yelps is the one that got hit with the stone type of thing. So I didn't know if you wanted to expand upon that at all.
Well, so I just got back from Montana. The state government has outlawed vaccine mandates, like even for private businesses. I know libertarians are going to be like, private business can do what it wants. Okay, set that aside. Let's look at what is going on with the federal government. We've got states openly defying them. Obviously, Florida came out really hard early on. New Hampshire has, Texas has. There have been a lot of states that are pushed. How many states? I actually don't know. I think it's at least half of the states who have said that they're not going to abide by Biden's vaccine mandate. So that tells me that they blew their load maybe a little bit too early. And it didn't work out because they were desperate. And now we've got states who are saying, no, we're not going to do that. So it is crumbling. It is crumbling. You're seeing the Black Lives Matter movement maybe starting to cautiously come out against vaccine mandates. They definitely came out hard against Biden after he obviously, predictably blew them off after he was elected. So, that's another nail in a coffin. Because that, sadly, like those people helped to get him elected, and so, they've turned on him, understandably. What else, man? There are so many. We have trillions of dollars in debt. Now you've got so many people using cryptocurrency. So the Federal Reserve is starting to slowly lose their complete stranglehold on our financial policy. That's really good. And then they see other countries across the world who are adopting and saying that cryptocurrency can be an official currency. That's pretty wild. It was horribly managed, but we did actually pull troops out of Afghanistan, and that has been a serious blow to the narrative that we've got to have war. Yeah, it's been a kind of a shit show, but people are acknowledging that the war on terror has failed. So those are just a handful of things. I really do think that state power. What else? Oh, the fact that Biden got elected and half the country thinks that it was cheating and a sham. Like, people have lost faith in the federal government. They think that voting is a scam. They think that everything is a lie. I would definitely say that the federal government is losing its grip on the people of the United States.
And what I find funny about like some of these commentators, I don't know if Matt does this, but they'll go, yeah, but you guys didn't do that. Well, I don't think you can always point to a direct causation. There's like a lot of ripple effects, but who cares? It's got done. We certainly didn't hurt it, which is an argument he starts to make, though. I think that he says that actually fighting for liberty hurts liberty. I've heard him make that argument before because he goes, well, you make yourself a target. Well, what the hell do you care if I make myself a target? Maybe it's drawing fire away from you. Go do your thing. Whatever. But I agree with you there. It's almost like I like to use the Ender's Game parallel, which is, if you punch a bully, you better make sure they don't get back up. The state, if they're going to make these mandates, the only way it works is if nobody refuses. But the minute somebody refuses, it starts to show that they don't have the power that they're pretending that they have. So I think that's super.
Absolutely. There's a lot of naysaying. There are a lot of, it's just like a lot of the talking points that comes out of post-libertarianism. They're very Eeyore-ish. Oh, we'll never get that. Oh, they barely got it, but it wasn't because of you. It's just constant negativity, and they're not arguments that are based in reality, in my opinion. And they're arguments that they selectively pick what facts they want to use, and then everything else is just, if it doesn't conform to their worldview, they toss it out. It's you know what it is it's an emotional argument.
Oh, and I think this is perfect. Christopher, I did not ignore your super chat. I do get to them all. I just try to put them in where they kind of fit, but I think this actually is a good spot to throw it up on the screen here, where Christopher had said, libertarians are sober about government. We are minority in a world where the majority are junkies. Unfortunately, some addicts cannot be saved. Potentially. That gets into political determinism a little bit, which I've been flirting with a tiny bit. But yeah, I don't even know if I'd call us sober about government, but like just completely realize it's poison. You know, sober seems to indicate, well, you know, you could drink it, but it's probably not good for you. I would say if you drink it, you die. So I hope that
was a good chat.
Yeah. All right. So anybody, if you ever think I missed super chat or not, I try to highlight comments that require our interaction, whether or not it's super chat. I don't believe in pay to play. Tips are nice, but you know, sometimes we have people here that are 14, 15 years old and they're into libertarianism, and I don't want to make them think, you know, they got to blow their allowance money in order to get attention. Like we have, now I know he's 18 now, Julian, but Julian is one of my channel mods and he just turned 18, and I love seeing like young people this zealous. So let's move on to the next one here. Let's see what you have to say, Angela. I think I've probably pulled more clips of you than him talking because he annoys me.
If you're going to get involved in a political movement and you're going to enter the political arena, it needs to be because the actions that you are going to take are going to tangibly move the ball toward liberty. And if after you've made your actions, the ball does not move toward liberty and in fact goes very sharply in the opposite direction, that should be a clue that whatever was done did not have the intended outcome.
Okay. He's very, I don't know, maybe I'm just a bit more esoteric, but I think he's very reductionist, because I actually think steps backward, and I don't agree with him that I don't think there's any liberty bill that ever made liberty go backwards. It might stand still, it might not succeed at the moment, but I can't think of one liberty action that actually made net liberty go backwards because of the liberty action. I think he's just making shit up. But let's pretend it did.
Yeah.
Going backwards can actually help move liberty forward. Like these vaccine mandates is definitely a backward step for liberty, but the resistance that was generated by them might actually propel liberty forward. I don't think you can look at things so atomistically.
Well, Mises talks about the seen and the unseen. What about that? Like the unseen effects. This is conjecture. We don't know what would happen if X, Y, and Z hadn't happened. If Ron Paul hadn't made this speech, if Rand Paul or Justin Amash hadn't tried to introduce XYZ bill. We could just as easily say that things would be 100 times worse if Ron Paul hadn't gotten up and denounced the war on terror, and pushed back against Giuliani. Things could be 100 times worse if the Libertarian Party didn't exist. They'd be 100 times worse if we hadn't done a kind of crappy job at whatever it is we've done. It's just complete speculation.
Well, I'm going to use.
It sounds scary, and it
does. I mean, he sounds
so
smart. He likes to sound smart. But I'm going to use Christopher Baker. For some reason, he just loves this phrase that I used at the 2020 convention. I'm going to have to make a t-shirt with this on it just for Christopher. Yeah, he's mining the subjunctive.
There you go. I like that.
Yeah, Christopher loves it. I said it twice in the 2020 convention to the chair, I think, and he just keeps repeating it after me. But it also goes into, like... it's something I actually got into in Christian apologetics, where it's the butterfly effect, basically. You remove one cause, you don't know the ripple effects. You just can't know that. You can't look at a piece of history and assume that piece could be removed without the rest of everything. I mean, actually, that gets into the whole time travel thing now that we could get really weird. You don't know if some little action in the past can make it so that you don't exist today. You know, there's so many chances.
Yeah, there are so many things. What would I say? What else? I feel that there was some other profound point I was going to make on this. Oh, well, it's gone.
Well,
It's just... Go ahead.
Yeah, well, maybe it'll come back to you. I know how to... You're much too young. Wait till you get to my age and you forget, like, everything.
Right.
Right,
I'll just keep drinking adrenochrome and never age. It's a big thing for me. Staying ageless.
It's a dream. I think we're going to do the next. I hope I don't lose track of the clips because I didn't like number them. They all just say new scene, new scene, new scene. So hopefully I don't fuck it up. But I think we're on clip number 3. So let me do that one. And hello, Earth Mama Herbals and H. Reardon. I don't think I said hi to you. And Sam Smith. Okay, let's go.
And I don't know if that's because you could say it's because of the futility of, it's because it was just so small. We needed more people. We needed to get more people involved. And that's kind of the premise. That's sort of the premise here is we need to get more people. We need to get more people bought into this idea. We need to get more people talking about this, and we need to get louder, and we need to get in front of more eyeballs, with the assumption being if we do that, then things our reputation will increase and more people will want what we're selling. But I don't see the evidence for that. Libertarians in general, to the popular consciousness, have a far worse reputation now than they did before the Ron Paul revolution. Before, they didn't have a reputation.
That was just bizarre. If you didn't,
it's just made up.
It is.
It's just made up.
Yeah. Citation needed.
Yeah, based on what metric? That's just like your opinion, man. And it's fine. Like I get that. You're upset because people say crappy things about libertarians on Facebook. But I will remind you that Matt Erickson lives in California, just like I do, Southern California. Mm-hmm. And so the results are skewed because we live in a little authoritarian shithole bubble. I just came from Montana. People don't have bad views about libertarians in Montana. Sorry. Like, it's just not universally true.
And the thing is, I'm going to bring up Rules for Radicals here. Which is not a book I'm a fan of. However, let me put it this way. I'm not a fan of the tactics because they're shitty and they're unprincipled. They work. A lot of shitty, unprincipled things work. But there's some actually deep truths in there about human nature that if you press the negative long enough, it turns into a positive. So that having a bad reputation is not always a bad thing, because if you have it long enough, all of a sudden you turn into the hero. And the key is to time it right, because you could turn into the zero again really quickly. But sometimes there's a value, like you learn this in PR, that if there's some bad press against you, sometimes the best thing to do is to lean into it. And before you know it, people get into it. All of a sudden it becomes the hip, cool thing. So even if what he said was true, it's like, you said that people didn't even know about libertarians before. At least we have a reputation now. You could argue whether it's good or bad. I would say knowing about something is better than not knowing about something.
Yeah, it's like the Jack Sparrow meme. But you have heard of me. The first thing you got to do is get people to learn about you. Okay, so I remember what I was going to say earlier. Time preference. One of the things that I've been campaigning on is that I love the Libertarian Party. I know I am not going to rage quit and blow out anytime soon. Mm-hmm. We have had historically a very high time preference strategy, and I think that is a failure. And it's not a failure of libertarianism. It's a failure of how the party has not had proper strategy, if any strategy at all. And I would like to change that. And I would like us to make an investment in our future, be more forward thinking, and not just have this be like a social club where we can't wait to screw over the person who's running in the next 2 years. We need to have some sort of long-term strategy that we can all work towards. Even if we don't all agree on it 100%, there needs to be some continuity. So I do think that that's one of the reasons that we haven't been more successful, and that has nothing to do with whether or not people like libertarianism or whether it's achievable. It has to do with organizational failure. So, I am sorry, Matt, and I am sorry to other people that the Libertarian Party in the past 40 years has failed you. I am going to try to fix it, and you can rage and scream about it all you want, and all I'm going to do is say, I'm sorry, I agree with you. I don't think that's a knock on libertarianism.
And I so agree with you, though. We've never talked about this, so I don't know if we'd agree actually in the finer details, and I'm always willing to be persuaded. But yeah, our strategy has sucked. There hasn't been a coherent strategy. We've been fighting against ourselves for 50 years, so I don't think it's even fair to say you had this idea and it failed. The idea hasn't been coherent.
Right.
If we had had a consistent strategy, I think this would be a remarkably different world. And I don't really know how to fix this change the strategy every 2 years thing. I've been thinking a lot about that, and I think actually the way to fix it, perhaps, and I'd love your thoughts on it, is for the delegates at convention to come up with like a 10-year strategic plan and make it extraordinarily difficult to amend, and give, and I don't mean specific goals, I mean overarching, and give charge the LNC with, and this, I might grow to regret this because the LNC, I have post-traumatic stress disorder. I hope you have a much more pleasant time than I have had. Let me give you an example. And I failed, I think, here. And maybe I didn't. I'd love to know your opinion, and I would love for you to be brutally honest. When Johnson Weld started going off the rails, big time, the LNC has the power to revoke the ticket. It's never been exercised. And I really started thinking, should it be? If our candidates stop teaching libertarianism and start saying things like bake the cake and really going against our platform, and when we try to bring, you might not know, we had an advisory committee for the Johnson Weld campaign that was kind of in the background. I was on it, and they basically told us in nicer terms, yeah, we just have this here to make you feel better, but we're not going to listen to you. Fuck off, was basically what we were told. And because they know the LNC is not going to revoke the ticket. I don't know if I want the LNC to do that, because I'm scared of the LNC now. Their power is just very corrupt sometimes. But are we still going to continue to have these national candidates that deceive the nation about what libertarianism is? I think Johnson Weld, for all their vote totals, and a lot of people are going to get really upset with me, I think the vote totals are great. They did great there, but I also think they did just as much damage.
Well, why do we want to achieve vote totals, right? We'd like to get a libertarian elected. That's one reason. We want to spread the message and see that other people have been exposed to libertarianism. I don't think that anyone's goal is for us to just have people check the libertarian box without knowing anything about it because they're disgusted by the other people and they picked something at random. And I think that that's something that happens very frequently. I think we get a lot of rando votes saying, I'll just go with this. And that doesn't inspire anyone. It doesn't change the world. It doesn't make it a better place. It doesn't get us ballot access because there's never enough people doing that to get us ballot access. So it doesn't help us to win accidentally. We're not stumbling up the hill. Mm-hmm. It would be nice if the LNC would at least put a little bit more pressure on candidates when they make, abysmal and appalling statements like, I sort of endorse Hillary Clinton. It would be nice if they could clarify when a candidate steps out of bounds and try to hold that candidate accountable. We could at least start there, even if we don't want them to be locking people's heads off.
I don't mind saying this now. What are they going to do? Suspend me? And this is a past term. But some people will remember there were some clarifying statements, like on every article from Johnson saying this is where they departed from the platform. That only happened because I was on APRC and I insisted on it. But maybe this power shouldn't be in the LNC. Maybe we need to have a continuing, stronger power of the delegates.
That's very possible.
I've always thought the delegates should have recall power of the LNC. They do retain a certain authority because you can appeal with 10% of the delegates. Maybe we need to expand out that the delegates at convention are actually expected to do some kind of oversight duties for the 2 years. I don't know. What we have now, though, I think is fundamentally not working in a lot of ways.
One thing that makes me hopeful is that I think we're going to have a lot more people who are delegates who are principled and care very much more about the message. And if we can continue that and to change the makeup of the party that is voting for officers and candidates, that will also change the culture. And I think that we are on track for that. So that gives me, a little bit of optimism.
I want to run something else by you, and some people might go, shush, you should keep this secret. I actually don't think you should keep something secret, like strategy-wise. I'm talking about caucus-wise, since I've joined you guys apparently now. I'm one of you. I didn't think that would happen. I was supposed to. You can't be a Lone Ranger in times like this. You saw what they did to me. Like even Dave Smith said, she counseled against the takeover, and look what they did to her. That's basically how I feel. But I've often said to like Michael Heiss and other caucus leadership that I think there's a power that you guys have, and I mean that in a good way, maybe influence. What's it that Jason Stapleton says? What? Power and influence. An influence that you guys have in that you easily have 10% signatories from last convention, and you could overturn any decision of the LNC that you want. And I actually would love to see that happen on the regular. I would love to see more JC appeals, because right now, the upper leadership of this party thinks it's untouchable, that they can do what they want until next convention. And that's not true. And I've encouraged Michael to contact all the delegates that were Mises Caucus and get a standing signature from them for appeals and get their consent and start. You guys can take control of the national party right now through the power of JC appeal. And I think that's not exercised enough. And I don't mind saying this openly, because I would love the unprincipled people to worry about this.
I'm open to it. I wonder how it would play out, whether or not it would get us what we want, or if it would just create more fighting.
I think it would get you
Do
what
you know
you
what
want.
I mean?
It's never been done. No group that has had the numbers has ever tried to exercise more direct control of the party. And remember, it's the delegates doing it. Now, they might be Mises people, but it's not the Mises Caucus. It's the delegates that happen to agree with the Mises Caucus. Because right now, the LNC, what did they do? They ignored lockdown for 18 months. When the LNC voted down my committee idea back in December, if 10% of the delegates had appealed that, then we might have gotten good messaging. I'm not saying do it on every decision, but it's just something to think about. I've been thinking about this for a while. It was something that I wanted the Radical Caucus. This isn't new, like I just thought of it with them. I wanted the Radical Caucus to get this kind of growth, and they just never did. But
Yeah.
I do think the members need to take control of the party from the elites. So, just an
I do
idea
agree.
to throw
Yeah.
out there.
All right.
All right, well, it's just something that I brought it up to Michael. I think he was open to it. I'm bringing it up to you. And there might be decisions now you couldn't obviously appeal something like my suspension, because that's something I appeal. But other just basic decisions, like if they try to prohibit Patreon support of LNC members, that needs to be appealed.
Yeah, I think we could probably work it out.
Yeah.
I think we could probably do it.
Yeah, it's my crazy ideas. You could, I'm not in leadership, so I just throw them out there, and I don't want to be in leadership. I like being a foot soldier. I mean, I like being on the LNC, but as far as caucus leadership, I'm happy being a foot soldier. All right, next clip.
They were irrelevant. They were nobody even knew who they were, knew what they had to say, or the term basically didn't exist within the popular consciousness. Now the term exists, and it has a distinctly negative connotation. Typically, when it's brought to the average person's attention, it's coupled with white supremacist and domestic terrorist and Nazi and fascist. It's mentioned in that same breath. That means that the average person is going to have that perspective naturally. So then if you go and you be yourself, but even more provocatively, even more in their face, you're not going to change that perspective. You're not going to make that perspective different. So,
okay, that was weird too. So, again, I think that goes into the rules for radical thing of pressing the negative, because you can only call someone a Nazi who's not a Nazi for so long before people are like, okay, nothing, I don't believe anything you say because this is so obviously untrue.
You know, at the same time, people hate these people who hate us. They hate Republicans much more than they hate us. So I guess the GOP strategy is out the window. And they hate the wealthy. So I guess the wealth strategy is out the window. So if you apply his line of reasoning to anything else that he is espousing, it's also out the window. It's just not a good argument. It's just, you know.
You brought up a great point that it didn't occur to me. Right. How do people think about the rich? And he wants to be rich. So ergo, post facto, whatever fancy words he wants to use, he just hoisted himself on his own petard, I bet there. I mean, you can't help lies people are going to tell about you. There's always going to be lies told about you. And
they also hate men. You know, if you're a man, if you're a straight man, especially a straight white man, well, you better change your gender identity to conform and fly under the radar, because the New York Times, the LA Times, you know, social media, whatever, they all hate you. So, you know, you're part of the problem. You're making libertarians worse. Like, we could just go on and on with all of these bad examples of how that reasoning just falls flat on its face.
Yeah, it's just, it's, there's no there. That's what I've figured out and just listening to a lot of Matt. I do find him very, like, I don't know. My first judgment of Matt is that I probably would like him as a person. I think he's a decent guy. Like, I don't get bad, like, vibes from him. I do think he's a bit pretentious, which rubs me the wrong way, but I just, like, laugh at pretentiousness. Like, I don't feel, like, I feel negative, but not like in a you're an evil bastard kind of way, but in a, okay, dude, put down the word salad type way. But yeah, there's no there, but I think a lot of people are really impressed by the vocabulary and the poise that he has. I mean, he is a very good speaker. He sounds confident. He's cute. That always helps. But when you really listen to what he says, I don't think there's anything there.
Well, I can speak a little bit of Latin from working in litigation. That doesn't mean that, you know, I can use it in a way that has any particularly beneficial or powerful meaning to the average human being. And being articulate doesn't make you particularly intelligent. It just means that you're very well spoken, you know, and you're practiced. Personally, the way that he comes off to me is someone who is very starry-eyed and excited about new ideas and is still sorting them out. And the ideas don't seem fully formed. They don't seem fleshed out. They're very inconsistent. You know, just get power, but then stay out of politics, but use power to influence politics. It's just very naive. You don't get to wield political power without being involved in politics. I can tell you from being involved in local politics that the people who are movers and shakers in the city of Los Angeles, especially, where it is harder to get elected to city council than it is to get elected to Congress, by the way, and you have the highest number, the worst ratio of representation of anywhere in the country, over 286,000 people per represented elected.
Oh God, yeah, bad.
It's insane. So the way that you get elected is by having lots of political power and being involved in politics, in addition to being wealthy and corrupt and well-connected. You don't just slide in after having no, you know, like shadowy behind the scenes involvement in politics. That is not real. That is made up. That's a fantasy. It's an interesting fantasy. It's a good guess. It's a good uneducated guess, but it just doesn't reflect reality.
And
so
I don't
this
think
whole, like, you know, go ahead.
Well, I don't think you can do it and be principled either. I mean, there's a reason shadowy is shadowy, and I think that kind of goes with not being particularly principled, because when you're principled, you stick out. You can't hide behind the scenes and be principled, in my opinion. Let me put up H. Reardon's comment, because this really goes to what you were saying. So, and I like reading this out loud because I know a lot of people listen to my show and they're walking around cleaning the house and stuff. So it says, I think, however, Matt is not necessarily in favor of one advertising that they are rich. There are rich people who work behind the scenes in politics and business who are little known to the public. Yeah, and I think they tend to be unprincipled. in my
Oh
opinion.
yeah, and I assumed that principle was out the window, and I can't think of a particular moment in that debate where Matt said that, but there are a lot of the post-libertarian guys who say that you've got to sacrifice some principle in order to maintain power. So, there's that's an issue, but for people who are okay with that, I'm still going to give pushback and say, no, you don't get to fly in with $1 gajillion and say that you've never been involved in politics, but you're going to take over. That's not how it works. Even Donald Trump had been involved in politics. You could look through his, pictures of him on Google Image. You can see him donating, tons of pictures of him at galas. Everyone knew, and he tried to run multiple times and dropped out. So you don't just show up like, oh, I'm a rich person. I will work behind the strings and pull the strings of the puppets. That's not real. That's imaginary.
And I know, like, for instance, like the Jason Stapleton guys, because I just watched his debate with Dave Smith, where he wasn't even talking about being behind the scenes in politics. He was more talking like, well, if they try to jab my kid, I'm just going to expatriate somewhere because I have mobile income and I have the means to just flee the country. That's nice, but that unless you like have bought off some private jet that you are like, the government can stop that at any time. Like this freedom he thinks he's created through his wealth, there is some freedom there. Absolutely. Like, it sucks to be poor. I'm poor right now. But when you're increasingly statist, the government, A, can take your money, and B, they can get rid of your means of escape. And who says that where you're going, like you can't escape the state right now. You can up to a point, but I also think it's a lot of bravado, what he says. Like, it's almost like where I hear the gun owner say, if they come to take my guns, I'm going to do the final stand. No, you're not. Most of you have families, and you're not going to sacrifice your families for your final stand. Maybe if you're some single guy with nothing to lose, you might be the guy that gets massacred by the state, and we will mourn your passing. But most of the people that say this have families. They're not going to sacrifice their wife and kids. You're going to let them take your guns before you sacrifice your family. That's just the way it is. It's a lot of talk.
I've spoken to a lot of people who are active in the Mises Caucus now because they are retired, or they retired early because they made a bunch of money on crypto. So you don't have to choose wealth or political action. That is a false choice. That just makes no sense. There are plenty of people. Jim Cantrell, he's active in politics in the Libertarian Party. He's financially secure. There's a lot of people, I'm not going to call them all out by name, but it's their choice what they do with their money and what they do with their time. And there are some people who, for whatever reason, for many reasons, their station in life, they're never going to be wealthy. And that is sad, and it sucks. But there's no reason that we should shame them for it. They can't go back in time and change their decisions. They can't change, tragedies and accidents. And they still want to be politically involved because that's the only way that they see that they can achieve freedom for themselves or for their children. And who are we to say, no, you didn't get rich, or you have a low IQ, or you're disabled in a way that you can't. So screw off and just, be a slave to the state. It's just bizarre.
Well, and everybody has different priorities. Like, listen, I hate being poor, but I don't prioritize wealth. I just am not going to. I would rather spend my time in other ways. What I prioritize is being able to look in the mirror and know that I fought, even if it's a losing battle. I think a lot of people, there's somebody who always comes on my stream and always types in Valkyrie energy. And I think that's actually quite accurate. Like, I just need to be able to know I fought. Like, even if I get mowed down, I just got to know that that's my priority. And something struck me the other day that, wealth, power, influence. God, that phrase just like, I don't know, it's cringy to me. As if that's the only way to have influence. Something struck me the other day. I have people who do this quite a bit with me. And I hope this doesn't come out sounding like fucking arrogant, because I'm not trying to. But my intensity in some ways has inspired people who are more timid. And I have people who come to me and say, I didn't tell you this, but 25 years ago, you inspired me and changed the course of my life. That's more important to me than money. That it just is.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
gives me more fulfillment, to know that I made a difference and didn't even know it. And they tell me later. How many people haven't told me? So I might not be the person that wins a lot of liberty, but I might be the person that inspires somebody that wins a lot of liberty. And I think that's just as fulfilling and important.
Absolutely. We all have different roles that we need to fulfill. Like, it's not just a cookie cutter, one size fits all. Every person is going to spend a bunch of time and energy getting into real estate or crypto investing and then be rich and, take over. That's just not reality. It's not a reflection of reality, or it doesn't account for our different personalities or different paths in life,
And Elastic Giraffe, I said this when I was watching Jason Stapleton. I actually think you get a lot more personal freedom by holding up in the mountains in Colorado somewhere. In the wilderness. Some people do that.
And that works for some people. And then other people, they end up like Ruby Ridge, or they get Waco'd. So you can't be 100%. There's no 100%, safety anywhere in the world. And that includes for fabulously wealthy people. Like, they get offed too. They get murdered by the state. And all of their assets seized.
Of course, because it's a track. Like when Matt says, when you struggle against the state, you make yourself a target. How about when you're fantastically wealthy, you make yourself a target? That's a big target.
Definitely.
Okay, so I think I'm on clip number 6. I got to count. Oh my God, I'm terrible at math. 3. Math is hard. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, if we repeat, I'll just hit the next one. But let's see here.
So since the Ron Paul revolution began, lots of people have become libertarians. Lots of people have joined the Libertarian Party, or started listening to libertarian podcasts, or started talking to other people about libertarianism. But that hasn't had any effect on the actual world around us, or any positive effect.
How can he know that?
Yeah, no, that's a complete wild guess, made up. It's just, you can say anything with an air of authority. I could say, right now, there's 5 million koalas orbiting the planet Jupiter. Go look for yourself. What are we going to do about it?
Right.
You could say anything. You could just make anything up if you say it's serious, and it might sound intimidating or depressing. It's just not a reflection of reality.
Yeah, you can't know that. It's just like mining the subjunctive, I guess, again. And I think it's crazy to say that Ron Paul didn't make a difference. Again, you have to define difference. To me, people even being free in their own minds and breaking the mental shackles of the state is a difference. And you can't say Ron Paul didn't accomplish that.
Totally true. I mean, the Giuliani moment itself was like mind-blowing. I think that probably had a very strong impact on the fact that we have finally pulled out of Afghanistan. Because that did impact people, and it has stirred people up and had a lot of people, argue against war. Republicans and conservatives too. It made it okay to oppose war. That's really what it did. It normalized saying we're the bad guys sometimes in foreign policy.
Yeah. This was a maddening interview to me, as you can tell, but okay. On to clip numbers, because I clipped a lot of shit. Here we go.
Control. And what we live in now is one of the most sophisticated propaganda states of all time. One of the most sophisticated mind control devices of all time. And the vast majority of people are essentially mindless automatons who are bought into the system because the system gives them things that they want.
And okay.
And so did the Soviet Union, and that collapsed
overnight.
So it can happen.
Yeah. Assassin Panda said, God, he's like nails on a chalkboard for me. Yeah, it's a bunch of just bromides, and I love it because Dave Smith does that a lot. Okay.
Yeah. It's like I agree. It's sad and it's depressing that things are not in a good state right now. But that is not the end all be all. It is not written in stone that this is our future. And woe unto anyone who says lay down and comply. That is something that I think is damning to your soul, to say just lay down and comply with the state. And I don't know that he's necessarily saying that, but that's the tone. It's a cautionary, like do it or else kind of thing. Like something bad will happen to you. Well, I'm aware and I assume full responsibility for my own actions, as do the rest of us, because I believe we're all autonomous human beings with free will, capable of making our own decisions.
And one person's decision could seem totally stupid to another. An example like I like to give, I know I go off on these wild like things, but Michael Malice talked about, this is kind of going off in a thing there, but when he talked about his admiration for pacifists, where he said that people, like the guy standing in front of the tank in Tiananmen Square, could seem like a completely stupid, suicidal move, which it was, but we're talking about it right now. Some random Chinese guy at you know how many people live in that country that would be talking about this one guy, that these small statements can make a big difference. And while I wouldn't want to stand in front of a tank, that's the value he chose. Or like those monks who used to self-immolate themselves to make a point. That's their decision. Not a choice I would make. But we're still talking about them, aren't we? So,
I mean, you can inspire someone with your actions. You can inspire someone to save someone else's life. Yeah. There are people who might be on the brink of suicide and they see you do something brave and they're like, the world isn't fucked. I'm not going to kill myself. I'm not going to die. You can inspire someone to reach out and take care of their neighbor when their neighbor was on the point of suicide, or they had children that were starving and they're thinking about abandoning their kids somewhere. You never know what you can do, like what impact you make on someone else's life when you man up and defy the state, or when you just do something courageous. We need brave people in this world, not just people who are going to hide, behind wealth and their perceived political influence.
And I think you just brought up a really important point here, that I've always thought, but I didn't really put my finger on it, is at least the attitude I have. And as people know, I'm like a hard deontologist. Like, don't tell me not to do something because some people won't like me. If it's the right thing to do, I'm going to do it. I might not do it perfectly. I'm a bull in a china shop sometimes. But I always try to do the right thing. But I have, and I've always had my whole life, this attitude that you can rest, and maybe it comes from my Christianity, and I know you're a Christian as well, so you might be able to relate to what I'm going to say. It's almost like the Bible verse that says, the word of God shall not return void. So you might not know the effect it has, but you can be confident in preaching the good news that it will have an effect even if you don't see it. Now, to remove it out of religion, I believe in being a principled person moving through the world. You may not know who you're influencing, but you can rest assured that your principled stance will not return void, even if you never personally know. I just have had that optimistic view.
I totally feel you. I totally agree.
And as you said before, they're kind of black-pilled, I guess. And I'm just I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, I think that it is a black-pilled look. They are understandably very depressed about what's going on in the world right now, but I don't ever let that get me down. I've had, bad things happen in my life, very bad things. I've been very sick in the recent past. I've had run-ins with law enforcement in my lifetime and been in a dark place, and I just won't ever give in to that sort of energy or that outlook on my life. And I think that's why I'm able to accomplish so much, get so many things done, and to have a good attitude about it. I choose to have a good attitude, and I choose to be optimistic. It's a great way to live.
I love the screen name. Look at the screen name of the super chat. Schadenfreudian slip. I love that screen name. That's clever. And our Canadian friend here, we have a Canadian anarchist from the Great White North here. Right here, it's perfect. He says, I saw a video of a guy in Melbourne today. A riot cop walked up to him and told him to move back, and he didn't. And then the whole crowd stood their ground, and you could see the cop's demeanor change. Right there. the little differences. To give you another Christian example, there used to be a Christian apologist I used to listen to, and I can't remember his name, but he's from Stand to Reason. And he talked about when you're talking with people, your goal should just be to put a stone in their shoe. And I love that analogy because, you know, when you have that little pebble in your shoe, it'll bother you. It'll bother you and it'll bother you and it'll grow and grow. And I think that is sometimes our role as liberty ambassadors, is to just put a stone in somebody's shoe.
Yes, I think about that like from the perspective of what you hear about when you're running a political campaign. It takes 8 interactions to get someone to remember you. 8 times. So don't give up. Now, I wouldn't say, you know, be abrasive and insufferable and obnoxious 8 times, but you have to keep interacting with people and putting ideas in their minds.
Okay, let's go on to the next clip here.
Now, lots of people, when they encounter liberty in the right way, in the right context, then they're like, oh yeah, that actually sounds really good. That's something that I would really like. And that context is always on an interpersonal basis. It's always somebody that I know. There was someone that I know that said, hey, you should go listen to this and hear this. And you get that social credibility. That's the way that these sorts of messages spread.
So, what he's describing, God, why do I relate everything to my faith? I'm sorry, I'm just steeped in it. I used to be a trainer with something called Evangelism Explosion. I'm not so sure if you're familiar with that program, but it teaches friendship evangelism, and that's how I kind of approach my libertarianism, one-on-one. But who's to say political action doesn't do that? It's like, yeah, you just said like the sky is blue, and...
Yeah, it's just another, I don't even know if this one's made up. I guess it's an incomplete thought. It's a statement that is not fully formed.
Yeah, it doesn't have
People
a
are
conclusion.
influenced by their peers.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree.
Okay, Captain Obvious.
Yeah, it doesn't have anything. That's not a strike against libertarianism or really anything. It's not a strike. That's just
and it's not a strike against politics. Somebody had said earlier when I said they're bromides, they said emphasis on bro. Here you go. We have a question from Schadenfreudian Slip. Is there any truth to the rumor that we two are going to mud wrestle at the 2022 convention? We could start a rumor right now.
Yes.
Yes. How much are you going to pay us?
I have offered to mud wrestle. I will mud wrestle at the 2022 convention. I offered to do it at 2020, but I wasn't feeling very well, and I only had one person take me up on the offer, and we couldn't find a place within walking distance, I guess, of the convention to mud wrestle. Make it happen, and I will do it.
Oh, I'd do it.
It's not going to be hot, though. Everyone thinks it's going to be hot, and I will do it, but it's not going to be sexy.
Oh,
so
no.
just be prepared.
Listen,
be
guys,
prepared to be trolled. Oh no, I will do it, but you will be mercilessly trolled when I do it. But
that's a NAP violation now. Have you heard? Trolling is a NAP violation according to the Libertarian Party of Massachusetts.
I will troll myself, and I will troll the entire party, but I will not troll any individual directly. Yeah. So,
well, I'm basically
I'll find a way
the
to make Massachusetts. Yeah. I'll make Massachusetts feel very comfortable. I will set up a safe space. I will provide sidewalk chalk and blankets and hugging machines and whatever else they need. I will make sure that Massachusetts is emotionally safe.
Well, you know, in my appeal, you saw my Comic Sans notice of suspension, so you know I troll the LNC hard right now because I just find them ridiculous.
That was... Comic Sans might be a NAP violation. That might be an exception. It was visually, it was intense.
Well, you should have seen the clip art.
It wasn't as bad as Wingdings.
Well, you didn't see what I wanted to do. My advisors, because I have people helping me on the appeal because a lawyer is a fool for his own client, whatever. You know what I said. I have people advising me because otherwise you never know what I would do. So I actually wanted to put in the petition for my appeal, though, that it should fail because they didn't show me on the doll where I hurt them. And I want to see the fucking doll. But my advisors didn't want me to put that in.
Yeah, I mean, that would be hilarious, except that you're actually trying to get reinstated. So then, yeah,
I am.
Fine line.
I am, but I believe that humor, when you're a pacifist particularly, is such a powerful weapon. And that I've often said the state would crumble tomorrow if everyone just laughed at them at once. Pointed and laughed.
It would. It would. I want to get us there.
Yeah.
I want to get us there.
I cope through humor. Like, that's just how I cope. Otherwise, I would just be crying about what happened to me. So I laugh. I just come up with these scenarios. Oh, I want to tell you, this is what I entertain myself with. I would never do this. These are just my fantasies. They're not sexy, guys, so don't get all boom checka wow wow. So I was often thinking, like, what would be hilarious at convention if things weren't going our way? I think we should just release a bunch of skunks in the convention hall. Because I think that would be fucking hilarious just to watch the the mayhem.
That would be really funny. That would be really funny. You could release all kinds of things. Like if you just find something that won't bite, but that is freaky, you could release locusts. Locusts are there non-biting locusts? I think locusts don't usually bite.
But
Locusts.
a skunk would be great.
You could release ladybugs. Those are pretty chill. You know, those are not violent insects.
So these are the fantasies I have that I entertain myself with, just imagining what would happen. But somebody said just do all of the plagues. Frogs. Porcupines! Oh my god! Release a bunch of porcupines! Perfect. That would be great. That would make CNN. That'd be better than Naked Dancing Man.
That would be better. That would be much better.
Okay, all right, here we go. I told you I had a lot of clips.
The idea that the fact that the state is crumbling, that the idea that that's a good thing, I think gets at the root of part of the where I see libertarianism as an incomplete philosophy. Because libertarianism, as currently espoused or as popularly considered by people within the libertarian community, it's an anti-state philosophy. It's not a pro-liberty philosophy. It's an anti-state philosophy. And so liberty, the subject of liberty is reduced to something with respect to the state. And so then it's a kind of an easy, seems like a linear thing that, you know, as the state, or not a linear, but as the state goes down, the liberty goes up.
All right. That actually I thought was one of his dumber and better points at the same time. If something can be dumb and good at the same time. I thought it was dumb to say liberty is just anti-state. Well, because that's the biggest encroachment on liberty right now. It's kind of a necessary precondition to liberty. It's not a sufficient. This is where he didn't actually say it well, but he has a point behind it, is that just getting rid of the state isn't necessarily going to bring liberty. It's a necessary precondition. It's not a sufficient precondition. So you got to get rid of the necessary preconditions first. I think what he's trying to get at is something that I've said a lot, is that libertarian dystopia is possible. Liberty itself is not a guarantee of human flourishing. It's just a necessary precondition, not a sufficient one. So
yeah, no one wants Somalia or Mad Max, right. But that's not, why do we assume that that's the default state? It's not. That's one of the reasons that I really push personal responsibility, and I'm constantly shilling for Jordan Peterson that people need to clean up their lives, clean up your room. If you want to have the best libertarian experience in life possible, then you're going to take personal responsibility for yourself, and then you're not going to encounter the state as much. When you're careful about things, when you're smart, not just like don't break the law, but be accountable for your actions, be intelligent, use good judgment, handle your shit. There's nothing that I said right now that is not in alignment with libertarianism. But it's not as exciting. It's not as sad and black-pilled and dooming, right. to talk about personal responsibility.
Well, and also, who says something has to be a complete philosophy. I agree with him that libertarianism is not a complete philosophy, because the part where it leaves off is where people differ. Like, you can't put everyone in the same cookie cutter. So libertarianism is about justice. It's not a complete system of morality, because there are certain aspects of morality that are going to differ from person to person. You can have non-aggressive moralities that differ. And if you have something that's so complete, that's just people who need everything spelled out for them. Like, they can't have any variation. Everyone has to think this. I think the fact that libertarianism only takes you so far is a feature, not a bug. And he treats it as if it's a bug.
I mean, it's straw manning, I guess. It's something that's pretty close to straw manning. It's setting up it's a low resolution image of libertarianism. It's positing libertarianism as though it's something that it's not. Being an insufferable troll who hates everyone and is shitty constantly to people could technically be a libertarian.
Mm-hmm.
Being a crappy, evil, racist, sexist person, you can be a libertarian. But it doesn't mean you should be.
Right.
No one's saying be a libertarian and also be a shitty person because you technically can. Like, that's a terrible idea. That's a terrible way to live your life. I wish that more libertarians talked about this instead of just talking about what you could technically get away with. But, I guess it's not as exciting.
Well, it's the difference between libertarian brutalism and libertarian humanitarianism, which I do think is a very real distinction, which used to really just trigger me. Like, I used to just think that people who said that were just trying to water down the philosophy. But I was younger, and wasn't young because I was always in my 50s when I was a libertarian, but younger in the philosophy. I think when you're younger in the philosophy, you kind of get off on those edge cases. Can you have slaves? Can you sell your kidney? Can you?
Yeah.
I'm not planning on selling my kidney.
Well, and there's also, right, to be fair, we do receive a lot of pushback from people who are social justice warriors and just like skeptics. So that's going to make us skew towards, things that are offensive or outliers or extreme, because those are the conversations that we're always pressed on. And we want to make sure that we're not telling anybody that they have to live their lives a certain way. So we're constantly telling people, you can be a dick, you can be a this, you can technically be a racist, but what gets lost in the optics of that is, for crying out loud, we're not saying you should be, I think that you should do X, Y, and Z, but that's just like my opinion, man. And we all have plenty of different opinions about how you should live your life. It's really that we all agree on the basic, bare bones things that you shouldn't do.
Right.
I guess that's what makes us unique.
Right. Again, a feature, not a bug. It's almost like him complaining, like if you have an appliance like a vacuum cleaner and you're complaining that it doesn't do the dishes. Well, it's not intended to. It's just intended to clear the spot in the carpet for you to get there to do the dishes how you see fit. So complaining that libertarianism doesn't do anything, doesn't do more than it claims to do, is just like, and yellow is not pink. So?
Right.
All right, let's see. We're almost getting to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Holy crap. I think I got 16 clips from this guy.
Oh my goodness.
Well, because I think
how many more do you have? It's good.
I don't know. Why, you bored? Oh, here we go.
It's getting a little late. I'm getting a little hungry.
I know. Okay, well, we'll try to go. He said dickertarian. Okay. Yeah, no dickertarians allowed.
Number one, I don't know what the outcome looks like.
Okay.
I don't know what, and then I don't see how the actions are going to connect to actually creating that outcome, because the history that we have it shows that isn't at all what happens.
You have to know what the outcome looks like.
I guess we want to make sure that everything is. We got to read the future, right, in order to be safe.
And I thought, like, him of all guys, I mean, he accepts certain libertarian presuppositions. You think you can centrally plan liberty, that you're going to know how it's going to look like. No, you're not. You're not. 3, 4. Okay, I'm going to go through these last ones quickly because I know you're hungry. 3, 6. Okay, we're going to play a couple.
I think that you're right about some of those things in like a high time preference way, but I'm talking like long term. Secession isn't a long term solution. Secession is well, number one, it's just, I mean, economically, it's effectively irrelevant because the power center of the globe right now that's directing the events of everything that's happening doesn't care about borders. It doesn't pay attention to, it's not, oh, you know, they seceded, oh, I can't touch them anymore, that's too bad. And I don't see where just creating a new Republican government, I'm little r Republican, just we're going to secede and we're going to have a Republican government here. I don't see where that is a change or an improvement. That to me is just, it's just moving stuff around. You're still not like tangibly creating liberty.
Why are you opposed to messaging about libertarianism? Because it sounds to me like you don't want me to spread the message of liberty and like you don't want me to wake people up to the evils of the state. So if that's the case,
because I don't think you have a valid alternative to present to them. And I think that waking people, number one, I think the posture of we need to wake people up is really antagonistic. And I think that it's that position of we're the enlightened ones who have all the best ideas and all the secrets, and if only everybody would listen to us, then everything would be better. That posture existing from the jump that alone would tank a campaign. But
Okay, so that's the end of the clipster because I just thought that was really ridiculous. Where waking people up is educating people is probably a better way to put it. I understand waking up can be kind of like takeover, but I don't think anyone's really getting all that offended by it. And Chris Baker, I have seen your super chats. I'm going to do them at the end, kind of the way Joshua does, where we put them all in a row so that we could give it the proper attention. So I have not ignored you. So I apologize if you think I have. So what about his idea, like that there's harmful...
So waking people up is elitist, but waking me up to tell me to not message about liberty is not elitist.
Right. Is waking you up not to wake people up.
Right. It is waking people up. So waking people up, maybe a better way for him to phrase that would have been that he doesn't like the term waking people up and I should use a different term. And then from there, we can go into why he doesn't think I should share whatever it is I'm sharing. I think those are two arguments that he sort of smushed together. How about secession? Secession isn't going to achieve any freedom. Based on
what?
Based on what metric? I think actually that when we seceded, when we broke apart from Britain quite a while ago, we did achieve freedom. And then it slowly disintegrated. So we could argue about the definition of low and high time preference, but I would say that we had a pretty good run. And if we could do that again, we would have another pretty good run. And maybe it won't last forever, but I'll take what I can get. And if that's not a low enough time preference for him, well, I'm very sorry. And I don't know what will ever meet your standards in reality. But I'm going to work towards what I think is the best and, easily most attainable goal.
Yeah. To me, it's like his whole argument is don't do what you're doing.
It's just,
okay.
Yeah. And so when pressed, what is the alternative? It's a mix of wealth, power, and influence, get involved in politics, but remove yourself from politics. So agorism. Those two are completely at odds with one another. And when pressed on which one he should pick, there's never a straight answer. And, I would say from a generous point of view that's because he hasn't got it figured out yet. And that is totally okay.
And that is okay, yeah.
Yeah, but don't pretend that you do have it figured out if you don't. You know what I mean?
Don't make your whole shtick about putting down what other people are doing.
Yeah,
he talks about waking people up being some kind of arrogant, we have all the knowledge, but kind of coming onto the scene and telling everybody they're all doing it wrong doesn't seem to be much more humble.
No, it's not. It's definitely not coming from a place of humility. Well, I gotta take off soon because I've got.
Okay, we're gonna just go. We're gonna go
finish-
to Christopher's super chats,
Yeah.
and then I will let you go. But one thing I wanted to point out on the waking up thing, I actually don't think it's arrogant, because you don't use that term to the people who aren't woken up yet, and then the people who get waken up tend to use it of themselves because that's kind of their experience. That's
Right.
the way they feel about it. So I don't really have an issue with that language, but I don't know, quibbling over words sometimes to me isn't particularly helpful. But I'm scrolling through here to try to make sure I get all the super chats before I have to let you go. Oh yeah, this right here. Is this true? Angela wants to move LP national offices out of the DC area. That will get the Beltway Libertarians out of the party. Mary Ruhr in 2024. I thought it was Dave Smith in 2024. I'm not sure Mary Ruhr ever wants to run. She got savaged in 2008 by other libertarians, and I don't blame her for maybe going, I don't want to do that again. But do you want to move the LP national offices out of DC?
I would like to set up a office in the middle of the country, maybe Colorado, since that's where the party was founded, or somewhere else in the center of the state that's more affordable. I would like to have a functional office in the middle of the country where we could, I don't know, actually have meetings and have a space that's large enough for other people in the party to use it for fundraisers, candidate events, presidential HQ. I don't want to actually get rid of the building in the DC area. I think we would do better to rent that out and keep a small satellite office there. But I mean, it would be great if we could have a functional office. I definitely wanted to see that happen. I don't know that that'll actually happen while I'm chairing the party, but I'm definitely planning on working towards that goal. And it needs to be something that is going to put us in a good financial position, not a bad financial position.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I love Mary Ruhr. I'm not rooting for her to be our presidential candidate in 2024, but I think that's cool if Chris is. And if she did end up with the nomination, I would support her because I think she's a wonderful human being.
I agree with you on the office thing. It's paid off. So right now it can only make money for us. And I think having multiple offices throughout the country as hubs for activism is wise, in my opinion.
Yeah. I would just love to have a space that we can actually use. I think that would be great. And the building, I'm very glad that it's paid off. You know, it's an ugly, dumpy little building with an ugly ass pole right in front of it. You can't even take a decent photo of it. I was dismayed when the National Party sent out an email celebrating that it was paid off and the photo was so ugly. And then I checked myself and I thought, actually, I think this is the best photo that they could do. That's just what it looks like. So, you know, maybe people don't care about that so much, but I think that it does matter because of optics, and I want us to look good.
Yeah, I think it's a great little satellite office. I do think there's a value in having a DC office.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always bristled at the fact we can't have a meeting there. So when we have our meetings in Virginia, we have to go to the hotel next door. What?
Right. Yeah, it's just weird. So how about this Johnson Weld take? Is there anybody that was worse than Bar Root?
Root had nice teeth.
I like Wayne Allen Root as like a crazy person. I think that he is highly entertaining. I would not vote for him to be our nominee.
He was on the LNC, did you know? I think, was he vice chair? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how that happened. I mean, I guess I am actually. I guess I am. But yeah, that was a pretty hot mess. And there are people in the party who think that was a fantastic ticket. So
I know. I'm not going to name and shame anyone, but when I first came into the party, I went to LPEX in Nevada. That was the first convention I went to, and some people were just like showing me his website, Root for America, and I knew nothing. And I was like, oh, really? Okay, you know, that was funny. All right, I think we caught up with the super chats, and I actually think this was a much different conversation than the typical ones. We got, I think, waxed kind of life philosophical, and I super enjoyed it. So I appreciate it, Angela. You know that I am behind you 100%. No matter what happens with my appeal, whether I'm running for re-election or reinstatement, it would be an absolute honor to serve as an officer with you. Unlike, I mean, I'm not going to say no offense to past chairs because they've all been terrible. It's been a nightmare. They don't treat their officers like officers or utilize the abilities. And I think you will utilize the team that you're given by the delegates. And I hope they give you the team that you want.
Thank you. And I am cheering for you to get through all of this and to be in the best position possible for next year. And, you know, that people treat you well. I would really like to see that. And obviously,
I would love it as well.
Yeah. If you get reelected, we're going to work closely together, and you are going to be treated like a valuable, not just like a member, but someone who helps to make decisions and helps craft the future of the party. And I don't know. It's like, it would be a completely different, I want it to be a completely radically different experience for you and for everyone else.
I agree. Like, people only know me really as the person who's struggling against the LNCO, and I would love to have a term where it's not that way, where it's actually a team. And I want to put to bed any concerns that you may have that, like, I'm just going to be, like, riding your ass the whole time and being a pain. It's only been that way because there's been corruption. I really just want to be the secretary. I really just want to be the support. And I just haven't had the chance really to just do that. And I believe that would happen under your chairmanship, and I hope it happens. But even if it's not me as secretary, I am behind you 100%. I'm on the Angela train, and I totally believe in your vision.
Well, thank you so much. And I just like love and appreciate the contributions that you have made to Liberty, and I'm really glad that you've been out there fighting the good fight.
Okay, well, everyone, you have a good night. After this, Angela, I'm going to get your Patreon to, so I'll add up what super chats that we got so I can make a donation to your campaign. Well, it's my viewers doing it, so I super appreciate it. So everyone, have an awesome night, and I hope you do whatever you can to support Angela's campaign. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.
All right, bye-bye.
Given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business.